thank you all for coming here this afternoon so you could see firsthand the next part of how we are approaching our problem-oriented policing, and that's with an environmental review and cleanup. As the chief will tell you firsthand, we've learned that criminals will find environments that provide them safety and security and will use it to carry out their illegal activities. And so as this neighborhood has been identified as part of our problem-oriented policing, we have lieutenants and captains who are assigned to these task forces, and this is part of what we're doing, cleaning up the environment and bringing all of the different city departments and also some non-city departments together to make sure that we are removing, we are citing with codes, we are removing trash and debris, we are cutting back trees so that there are no hiding places. We're working with National Grid to make sure that the street lights work and working with the neighbors to find out where are the most immediate problems so we can focus on those and clean up the environment and the neighborhood and in the city. Because again, we have learned that the environment is one part of which that allows criminals to feel safe, and as the chief will tell you often, that's the last thing that we want, is criminals feeling safe and secure in our city, and this is part of what we're doing to make sure that that does not happen. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to the chief, and then we will open it up to the questions that you may have about this particular initiative. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Part of our the first phase of our problem-oriented policing is to do a neighborhood assessment. We go into the neighborhoods and we go door by door, asking the neighbors, what are your chief complaints? And one of the things that's often pointed out to us is environmental complaints, where the bad guys, the criminal element within that neighborhood, is using the overgrown areas to hide their drugs and actually to run into those areas after they've committed a crime or after they've conducted a drug transaction to hide their drugs. They're using it for access and egress areas into our neighborhoods. And we realize by removing those areas, that eliminates the possibility or minimizes the possibility for the criminal element to flourish within those neighborhoods. So this is what has been pointed out to us, and this is a collective effort by city agencies to get rid of those areas and to make this neighborhood a little bit safer.
All right, thank you. So we'd be happy to open up to questions that anyone has.
Why did you choose Fitch and Dudley?
It came up as part of our problem-oriented policing strategy, and I'll let the chief talk about the particulars of how this neighborhood came up.
Well, how a neighborhood comes up, we look at the crime first. The crime is what points us in that direction. The Syracuse Police Department is a data-driven police department, and we had complaints of shots fired in this area, and so we identified this area as a problem-oriented policing area based on the crime within the neighborhood. And then this area in particular was further identified through our neighborhood assessment.
All right, thank you.
Will you be making regular visits to neighborhoods like this on a basis of complaints or a need in the community? Will we be seeing more of this on a regular basis from both of you?
Yes, you will. This, the data will drive this effort. So this is not the only community or neighborhood, within our community that suffers from this issue, unfortunately. And we will move on to the next one and the next one until we get the problem solved.
And this is not the first neighborhood where we have started problem-oriented policing as well. We have this maybe our second or third that I know about.
As this problem goes, is this a finite solution? Are you going to do it for a period of time, or is it time?
Well, I think that depends on which part of this effort. So obviously today we cut back the trees and we're going to have the lights put on, so that's finite. But having our police department come and make regular visits and talk to folks and crack down, that's not finite. That goes on. Having our, doing inspections of our stores, which we do regularly, surprise inspections, that's going to continue as well.
So with this area in particular, the cutting back of the trees, that was one of the things. What was I'm not sure what the problem was, but But also, and so is the initiative like an increased police presence in this area because stuff like that.
All right, so what brought us here was crime data, shots fired, complaints of drug dealing, various other crimes within this neighborhood. And so we deployed our POP strategy, problem-oriented policing strategy. Our community policing officers come into the neighborhood, they go door to door, asking the neighbors specifically what their chief complaints are. We identify, ideally, the top 5 complaints, and which are probably going to be pretty consistent throughout each neighborhood. And then we start to address those complaints. The first complaints that they have, or the top of the list, are the crime problems, drug dealing. We've conducted search warrants within this area. We've conducted street operations within this area. We've used our crime reduction team in the area to address the crime problem. Now we're on the tail end where we're addressing the environmental problem. We will continue to address issues within this neighborhood. We're also going to look to meet with the neighbors that reside here with hopes of them forming a neighborhood watch group. This will sustain the law enforcement effort that has taken place here today. So that's kind of POP in a Reader's Digest form.
Let me just also add that these houses in particular going down have all been abandoned and are vacant, and that illustrates the importance of the land bank, because before the land bank came into existence, there was nothing that the city could do or would do with these properties. And now we look to move them to the land bank to make the determination whether they can be saved or demolished, and so there can be progress with this, so they don't just stand as an eyesore first and then as a haven for the criminal element. So again, this is about systematic solutions to a problem that manifests itself to these people living right here with their 3 children. And that's why we are here today to say it's not just about the police, it's not just about cutting back trees, it's about how all of the systems of government and non-government in terms of National Grid and the lights all work together.
What is the ideal endpoint for this whole project?
Yeah, I can tell you for me, it's to have that family living in that house feel safe, feel as if their children can play outside anytime they want, and feel like they have a neighborhood that they can be proud of. Yes, Tom.
Let's say somebody from an outside neighborhood wants to come to the city hall, say that we would like this process done ours. What is the timeline, rough? I know you can't give an exact date, but what's a rough timeline from the time a person calls to the time that the area gets cleared, the lights?
Well, you know, it depends on really what they're looking for. In a way, this happens every day at City Hall. People call and say, you know, our lights are out on our street. And so then we work with National Grid to try to get their lights out. Or they say there's trash and debris. And then we work to get them cited or to get the landlord or the property owner to clean it up. Or they say there's a problem with the neighborhood store, that they aren't, you know, they don't think it's safe. And so then we send code inspectors. So this is part of what we do every single day. What you're seeing here is a sustained effort to bring all different departments together at a certain time so that people can see it. But people will call my office, people will call the chief's office, and then we look at the data. But even if you don't have the data that puts you up in terms of one of the top neighborhoods for crime, that doesn't mean that you're not going to get us to pay attention to citing you for trash and debris or cutting down trees or making a path through your neighborhood, which we have done and do all the time. So I would say just continue to talk to the mayor's office, the chief's office, continue to talk to your government. That's what we do. All right, Sam, you have another question?
Playing the devil's advocate, I know readers would ask, how will, and we talked about this a little, when there have been a number of homicides this year, does dealing with environmental issues help address that problem, or?
Of course, because homicides are, you know, the worst form of crime. But there's other crime that leads up to that, and so. Are we finding guns? Are we finding drugs? Are we saying to people that you will have eyes on you? And the strongest part of a policing department is having relationships with neighbors where they feel like they can tell you what they see. And by doing this, we'll both establish and continue to establish relationships with neighbors, and they will see firsthand that the city and the police department are working together, and they'll share information with us as we move forward. All right. Thank you all very much. Have a good day.